You are listening to I Am Refocused Radio with your host, Shamaya Reed. This show is designed to inspire you to live your purpose and regain your focus. And now, here's your host, Shamaya Reed.
Hey, welcome to I Am Refocused Radio. We are here once again, and today we have another show lined up for y'all. We're going to talk to our special guest, Laura Gariepy. She is a freelance writer, a business mentor, a writing coach. Her website, you can go to it, is beforeyougofreelance.com. And today, we're going to all just enjoy the whole topic about freelancing because, man, it's going to be a fun ride. First and foremost, I want to welcome you, Laura, to the show. Say, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Shamaya. Thanks so much for having me.
Man, thank you for being here. And I also want to make known that you're also the owner of Every Day by the Lake, LLC. And that is a company that you are the CEO of, where it's all about freelance writing, content, and creation. So first and foremost, tell us a little bit about yourself. I know I gave a teaser, but tell us a little bit more about you and what inspired you to get into freelance writing.
Sure. So I started off kind of traditionally. I went to college. I got a bachelor's and a master's degree. I was in human resources for 10 years, and it was a decent career. But I realized that it wasn't letting me show up for my life the way I wanted to. Like the 9 to 5 required me to be in an office in a distinct location for a set period of time. And if other important life events happened that conflicted with that responsibility, oh well, I had a job to do. And after my grandfather passed in 2017, and it was kind of like a rushed bereavement leave to go to his funeral. At the time I was living in Florida, and this was in Massachusetts, and it was just 3 days to fly up for the funeral and then come back and then be back in my cubicle, Friday afternoon, right after burying him. It didn't sit well. And I vowed at that point that I wasn't going to have to rush through something that was personally significant to me ever again, just because I had to make money. Like there had to be a better way so that I could, work around my life rather than live around my work.
That makes sense. And when people are trying to become that entrepreneur, I mean, that's one thing to think it, but it's another thing to actually do it. What was your experience transitioning to becoming your own boss and design your own schedule, be the website maintenance person? I mean, wearing all these multiple hats. What was it like for you in the beginning?
Well, I'm still what they would call a solopreneur. I do contract out for things. I have an accountant. I have a designer. What you see online now is not my first iteration of my website. Like I DIY'd it initially, for budget reasons. But as I started to make more money, I had the ability to hire out specialists to help me with those things. But day to day, I'm still the one doing business development, trying to network, generate leads, service the clients I do have, and that type of thing. You brought up a really great point about, talking about it is one thing and doing it is another. I actually, without realizing it, took steps to prepare myself for entrepreneurship in the years leading up to it. So I had amassed a pretty decent nest egg because I had intended to try and retire early. But I realized that was still like a decade or two away. And I said, well, how many more important life events am I going to have to miss as I work towards this financial milestone? So I took that cash and also got a little bit of part-time remote work to supplement my savings as I kind of figured out this whole business thing. Like I didn't even know that I was going to be a freelance writer when I quit my full-time job. I just said, I'm going to make money online from my computer from anywhere on my schedule. And I'm going to give myself a time frame of 18 months to figure it out. At that point, I'm going to have to, get back into the full-time workforce because I'll start to deplete my resources. And fortunately, I had the experience of getting paid for a guest post on someone's blog a couple of months into the process, and a little light bulb went off in my head and said, if I can replicate this process enough times, I can earn a living. And things kind of just snowballed from there. So it's really been kind of an organic process, and I continue to let it be one because I like to keep things open and see what opportunities I can attract.
Once again, listen on Refocused Radio, talking to our guest, Laura Gariepy. And with the opportunity to freelance almost anywhere, you can be anywhere in the world, typing on your laptop or your computer somewhere. How has that changed how you just schedule your time? Like, how do you operate as a business owner, having the freedom to really just kind of create your own schedule?
My schedule is really fluid, and that's by design. Like, I have a master list of projects that I need to do and their due dates. And as long as I can hit those milestones, then I work where I can fit it in. I can, take my kid to school. If I have a sick relative, I can go tend to them. If I just feel like taking a nap in the middle of the afternoon because I'm tired, then I will. And so I don't have set working hours. It really is based on the workload that I have and also what's going on in my personal life.
And someone listening right now, they're like, okay, Shamaya, I want you to ask some questions. How can I become a freelancer? So someone who is wanting to be a freelancer, maybe they already started, but they're stuck because they're not getting the amount of clients that they would like. You've been there, you're doing it still. What's the process like for you when you first got started finding new clients and keeping yourself busy?
So I think you need to build a community. And by that is figure out what you want to write about or what type of client you want to serve, and then find people in that space. So for example, I primarily write about personal finance related topics. That's how I got my start in freelancing. And I launched a blog at the beginning of my freelance journey, basically saying, hey, I'm taking a work sabbatical, and here's the financial preparation I took to be able to do this. And that's how I landed that guest post opportunity, and was on a very prominent website. So I got noticed doing that. I found other bloggers in the personal finance space. I connected with them on social media, had a lot of great luck on Twitter, for example, and just kind of building a rapport with them. And once you have that rapport built, you can say, hey, do you accept freelance writers for your website? Or if you see that they're looking for writers, since you've been interacting with them, they already know who you are. So you have a better shot of, when you apply for an opportunity, to be recognized favorably. So it really is building relationships. There are a lot of freelance folks out there that have built amazing careers by cold pitching and will tout the merits of that. That's not something that I've really had much success with. I definitely feel like I have better luck networking and building rapport with folks and finding leads for work through that way. And one thing that I would recommend is befriending other freelancers. So if you want to be a graphic designer, meet other graphic designers or writers or virtual assistants or whatever service it is that you're going to provide. Lots of folks think that other freelancers are their competition, and that's not really true. It's not really cutthroat as you might think. Other freelancers, for the most part, are going to be willing to help because they know what it was like to get started. And so if they have a referral that may not be great for them, they may pass your information along to that potential client. They can advise you. It's just another great way to be able to grow your business and also have camaraderie for when times get tough.
And when people are testing the waters, as far as like, okay, I met all these great people and we're getting along, blah, blah, blah. But there's marketplaces out there for freelancers where they can use that space to showcase their work and find clients. Are there any freelance marketplaces out there that you've used and enjoy using? And how so did that make a positive impact for you?
To be honest, I haven't done work on those marketplaces. I think they can be good to get your start. If you don't have a large network that you can tap for leads. But the reason I hesitate to recommend them, especially for folks that may have already gotten their first couple of clients, is that there's a lot of competition there. And there's also the factor of pay. So, I mean, you have to pay the platform a cut of your earnings. And also, a lot of the competition there is based on price. So you may get lowballed. You may take work for less money than it's really worth and have to pay the platform a fee for the privilege of using the website. And then you have to pay self-employment taxes on top of that. And so at the end, you're not left with very much. So yeah, it may be good for a beginner. And again, there are folks that say that they make a tremendous living on, Upwork or Fiverr or whatever, and that's great for them. And I believe that's the case. But the vast majority of freelancers I speak with fare better when they land work outside of those platforms.
And those platforms, you're right, they are very oversaturated. And I like the idea. If you're a beginner, that might be a good place to introduce yourself. But to your point, knowing your value is also important. So let's touch on that. As a freelancer, why is it very important for the individual to value their service and not allow themselves to get lowballed or undercut, however you want to phrase it?
I mean, I think that's true of whether you're working for yourself or someone else. You want to make sure you're being compensated fairly. But then you add on the fact that when you're self-employed, you don't have health insurance. Nobody's kicking into your retirement plan. You have to pay your own taxes. And so you need to earn more as a self-employed person than you would as, an employee of a company, just to kind of break even to cover those costs. But in addition, it's not good to lowball yourself, because I think that harms the industry as a whole. So if clients see that, for example, a freelance writer is okay making 3 cents a word, which is like content mill pay right there, then they're going to think that all freelancers are good with that. And that's not the case. So we don't want the prevailing trend to be underpayment. So it's definitely a good idea to incrementally increase your rates over time. I've told coaching clients of mine to increase their rates with each new client, especially early on. And then if you hold on to clients long term, revisit your rate. Maybe annually say, hey, I'm now making X for this service instead of, what we were, had agreed to before. And so you're boosting your income just by asking a simple question, or by informing your client, hey, this is the price I'm moving to, just to let you know. I mean, obviously you run the risk that they don't want to pay that rate, but I think it's a necessary step. If you have a good roster of clients, you can afford at that point to lose the ones that are paying you well.
Once again, listen to Refocused Radio, talking to our guest, Lori Gariepy, the owner of Every Day by the Lake LLC and a freelance writing content creation company. And we're going to dive into this pretty soon. Her website, beforeyougofreelance.com, is your little hub that you have for aspiring freelancers. So before we get to that just yet, I want to touch real quick on the writing part of engaging the readers. What tips do you have for helping freelancers make sure that their prices are in their favor so that they can live, eat and pay bills, but also make sure that their writing is interesting? Because that's another catch. So what's from your experience, some of the things you learned to help make your writing even more interesting and appealing to as many people as possible?
Yeah, from a writing improvement standpoint, the biggest thing I would say is read it out loud. Does it make sense? Does it flow well? Does it sound conversational? I also think you have to know your audience. So if you're writing an article that's going to be read by investment bankers, it's probably going to sound different than if you were writing something, for photographers. You have your hardcore financial types versus your creatives, and they're going to respond to language differently. So you're going to want to be mindful of that. Use phrases that resonate with that particular group. Avoid overloading your content with like jargon or slang, especially if you think that a novice audience might be reading it and they might not understand the terms that you're using. Inject some humor. Again, you have to know your audience. Some folks are going to be more accepting of a joke than others. And, the type of joke is going to vary, but add some of that in, add some stories in. People like to be able to see a reflection of themselves in what you're writing. It helps them relate to it. I think those are kind of in a nutshell some of the quick things that you can do.
And someone who is a writer and they haven't started like last night, but they've been doing this for a minute, but they just want to brush up on their skills or just get some extra help. You have a website, beforeyougofreelance.com, and you provide private coaching. So break that down for the audience. What's some of the things that they can look forward to when they visit the website and learn about your coaching program?
So beforeyougofreelance.com features a growing library of blog posts and podcast articles. They're all free. There's no paywall. The topics range from, how to attract clients, how to market yourself, how to pay taxes, where to go for health insurance. So it kind of runs the gamut of common freelancer questions. There's also a page on there where you can learn more about my coaching program. And the coaching program is absolutely 100% tailored to whoever you are. It's a very organic process. It's based on your goals. And so, we may talk about how to develop your business acumen, or we may talk about how to improve your sales copy. So it can range that type of spectrum depending on your specific needs at the time.
Man, that's awesome. You also have testimonials of your clients who talk about their experience. When you are coaching, you mentioned that it's all tailor-made, and that's great. It's not just a cookie cutter and you just send them a PDF or something. When you've been coaching clients in the past, what are some of the common, not just mistakes, but what's some of the common frustrations that your clients have with their writing and freelancing?
Some of the frustrations are that they realize that they've been lowballing themselves. So kind of have to work through their fear of asking for more money. That's very real. A lot of people are extremely hesitant to advocate for themselves when it comes to their finances. And quite frankly, when I started doing it, it was difficult for me too, but now it's like old news. And so I feel, comfortable helping folks through those type of things. They also ask about, how do I structure a pitch? So if they are going to pitch a client, what do they include in that? So we can talk about those kind of things. We build their sales pages. It really does range a very large gamut of topics.
And you mentioned the word fear, and I think that's something to really realize that it can definitely hold you back in anything in life, not just this, but just in life in general, personal life, professional life. What's some of the practices that you give your clients to help them master the mindset of, hey, let's really get into focus of what we can do, our potential is, so that way we're not staying on this level that we're currently at, but we can actually grow to the next level of our freelance career?
Well, looking specifically at asking for more money, I will tell them what I've charged for a similar service, or I'll tell them, a bunch of other writers I know make in the realm of X for that type of project, so that they know that they're not coming out of left field with the request to make more money. I also tell them to think about their goals, so if they have a goal of earning, $5,000 a month or whatever the case may be, and they only want to spend X number of hours working, well, okay, let's reverse engineer this. You need to make X dollars per hour to hit that goal. And so if this client doesn't help you achieve that, you either have to negotiate higher pay or turn it down. So it's like, if the particular potential opportunity doesn't coincide with what you're trying to do, it should be an easy refusal at that point. So it's kind of like getting them to feel comfortable asking for more money, but also realizing that they don't have to say yes to every opportunity. There's also a bit of combating like a scarcity mindset there. So I see that a lot where people feel like they have to say yes to every opportunity because they're not sure when the next one will come. And that's very true with freelancing. You know, you will have lumpy income. You will have months where you kill it and months where it feels like maybe you're not making enough. But if you really are open to the fact that opportunities around every corner, and they are, then you will be less freaked out about turning down a project that isn't a fit for you financially or otherwise.
And going back to what you mentioned earlier on the show, you talked about getting involved with the freelance community, you know, other writers and talking to them and learning from them. Does that also open up doors? Obviously, I would say it helps, but does it open up doors for potential growth for clientele as far as you're in these different circles, whether it's in person, workshops, or online? Has that, with your experience with you and your clients, helped them go through new doors that are much bigger and give much bigger opportunity for them to grow their career?
Oh, 100%. You know, I really kicked off my career at a conference back in 2018. And as part of the conference, I was hooked up with a mentor that had been freelancing for several years at that point. And she got me into a private online group that shared leads all the time. She introduced me to some of her editors. You know, I always say, like, you always have to meet new people. It's like planting seeds. You never know when you'll be able to harvest, but if you plant enough of them, if you meet enough people, at some point, they're going to be able to help you, or you're going to be able to help them. And it's just amazing what can happen. And it all seems unexpected and by accident, but it's really not. It's by your own design, through the efforts that you've put forth by just trying to engage with others.
And with closing deals with potential clients as a writer, what's the best practice to showcase your previous work history as far as your portfolio? Is you make a PDF with examples? Do you point them to the clients? What's the professional way for a freelance writer to showcase their history of successful projects?
Well, you can do it a few different ways. I really like having your own website, so you could just send them a link. You have full control over that as opposed to using a third party. But I also use a third party called Contently, which is free, where you could list all your articles. You could share a link to your Contently portfolio with prospective clients. Certainly, I think if the client is looking for something very specific, you could make it easier for them by sharing links to work that's really related to that. So like in a personal finance context, if someone wanted me to write credit card reviews, I could say, oh, I've already done that before. Here's links to 3 articles for credit card reviews I've done previously. So I think that's very helpful. I think that can help you stand out. But the key is to just tailor it to what the client's looking for as much as possible and make it easy for them.
Been listening to I Am Refocused Radio, talking to our guest for today, Laura Gariepy. She is a freelance writer, business mentor, writing coach. You can go to her website to learn about her private coaching and other resources, her blog and podcast. She has In a Freelance Minute podcast, which is pretty awesome. Go to beforeyougofreelance.com. And before we let you go, someone wants to reach out to you and just check you out, make sure that, you know, they're a good fit for what you provide. What's the best way that they can be in touch with you?
You can email me directly at laura@everydaybythelake.com. I respond to every message personally. If you want to check me out on social media, you can follow me on Twitter at everydaylake. And I'm also really active on LinkedIn. So you could just search my first and last name, Laura Gariepy, and I should pop up there.
Awesome. Well, once again, been learning all about what you do as a freelance writer and business mentor, writing coach, and CEO boss. So once again, I want to say thank you, Lori, for being on the show today, talking to Refocused Radio.
Thank you so much for having me, Shemaya. I enjoyed our chat.